28 seconds. That's all that stood between 5 million pounds of fire and the sky. 28 seconds before the clock hit zero, before the engines screamed to life, before Florida shook. The whole thing stopped. A weather system drifted in over Kennedy Space Center. Not a hurricane, not a catastrophe, just clouds. Just ordinary clouds rolling in off the Atlantic like they do every afternoon in this part of the world. And the most powerful operational rocket on Earth sat down and waited. That's the moment nobody talks about when they show you the highlight reels. They show you the fire. They show you the landing. They show you the crowd cheering. They don't show you the 28 seconds. The moment where physics and weather and millions of calculations came down to a man in a control room pressing a single button that said, "Not today." Because what happens on the days they do press the other button, that's what this video is actually about. The Falcon Heavy looks wrong from a distance. Not wrong like broken, wrong like too much. 3 rockets bolted together at the hip, standing 70 meters tall on pad 39A, the same pad that sent Apollo 11 to the moon. Up close, the structure doesn't look like something built by human hands. It looks like something that grew there. Something that was always meant to stand on that scorched concrete and point at the sky. On a clear morning, it catches the Florida sun and throws it back at you, white and steel and perfectly still. But something is deeply, fundamentally wrong about all of this. Because what you're looking at is not a vehicle. What you're looking at is a bomb. A very precise, very carefully aimed bomb. And the only thing separating a successful launch from a catastrophic explosion is a set of calculations that nobody alive has ever been able to fully trust until the moment the rocket either flies or doesn't. Here's what actually happens the second those engines ignite. 27 Merlin engines fire simultaneously across 3 booster cores. In the fraction of a second it takes you to blink, the combined thrust hits 5.1 million pounds of force. That number means nothing until you feel it. The sound wave from ignition travels outward at 340 meters per second, and it hits the concrete, the steel, the air, your chest like a physical object. Not like sound, like a punch. People standing 3 miles away report feeling it in their ribcage. The launch pad itself would be destroyed by its own rocket if SpaceX didn't flood it with 300,000 gallons of water in the final seconds before ignition. That water flash evaporates on contact with the engine bells. The white cloud you see billowing across the pad in every launch video is not smoke. It is steam, water becoming gas faster than your brain can process what it's watching. And the rocket is already moving. But here's the problem. It's not just moving up. It's vibrating, oscillating. Every weld, every coupling, every fastener holding those 3 cores together is simultaneously being pulled in 3 different directions by 3 separate sets of engines trying to do 3 separate things. The aerodynamic forces alone, as it punches through the lower atmosphere at supersonic speed, are attempting to rip the stack apart sideways. The flight computer makes thousands of micro-adjustments per second just to keep it pointed straight. If it gets even slightly wrong, even slightly, the vehicle tears itself apart at hypersonic speed. There is no ejection seat. There is no abort that saves the payload. There is only the fireball, and then the silence, and then the investigation. And this is where things change. Because 2.5 minutes after launch, the Falcon Heavy does something that should not be physically possible. It splits apart. The 2 side boosters detach from the center core while all 3 are screaming through the upper atmosphere at Mach 6. Explosive bolts fire in microsecond sequences. If even one fires late, if the separation is asymmetric by any meaningful margin, a 40-meter rocket core slams into the vehicle it just separated from at over 7,000 kilometers per hour. What happens next to the remaining structure is not worth describing. But when it works, and it has worked, the side boosters do something that the first engineers to watch it said made them feel physically ill. They flip themselves around. In the thin edge of the atmosphere, moving at 6 times the speed of sound, they rotate 180 degrees and point their engines back toward Earth. They relight. They slow down. They fall controlled, precise, deliberate back through the atmosphere they just tore through on the way up. And then they land, together, on concrete pads, side by side, within seconds of each other. The first time SpaceX landed both boosters simultaneously in 2018, the crowd noise at Kennedy Space Center was so loud it registered on local seismographs. People watching the live stream thought the video was glitching. Engineers who had spent decades working in aerospace went completely silent because their brains refused to process what they were seeing. It looks like someone hit rewind. But that's not even the worst part. While those boosters are making their impossible landing, the center core is still up there, still burning, and it has a secret. By the time staging happens, the center core has burned through so much of its propellant, keeping the whole stack stable during max Q, maximum aerodynamic pressure, that it frequently doesn't have enough fuel left to land itself. On the ViaSat-3 F3 mission sitting on the pad right now, SpaceX has already decided the center core will not come back. It will be expended. It will burn the last of its fuel, inserting the payload into trajectory, and then it will fall toward the ocean and hit the water at over 300 kilometers per hour. A 70-ton machine, worth tens of millions of dollars, ceases to exist on impact. That is the acceptable outcome. That is Tuesday. And riding on top of all of this, through the vibration, through the staging event, through the plasma and the cold and the silence, is a 6.6-ton broadband satellite, the ViaSat-3 F3, bound for geosynchronous orbit, 35,786 kilometers above the surface of the Earth. A distance so precise that if you miss it by even a fraction, if your orbital insertion burn fires for half a second too long or cuts out a second too early, the satellite ends up in the wrong orbit. In the wrong orbit, solar pressure gradually pushes it further off course. The ground team watches. They calculate. They make corrections. But every correction uses fuel. And the satellite carries exactly as much fuel as it needs for 15 years of station keeping in the correct orbit. In the wrong orbit, that fuel disappears in months, maybe weeks, and then the satellite drifts, and no one can reach it, and $500 million slowly tumbles through the dark, broadcasting nothing, receiving nothing, talking to no one. There is no tow truck in space. The Falcon Heavy has now flown 11 times that first terrifying test launch in February 2018. It has carried military satellites and science probes and commercial payloads. In October 2024, it carried NASA's Europa Clipper, a spacecraft headed to Jupiter's moon Europa to search for signs of life in an ocean buried beneath kilometers of ice. The most important astrobiology mission in human history rode to orbit on the same design of rocket that almost didn't clear the launch pad on its maiden flight. That is the reality of what we do when we decide something is worth launching. We put it on top of a controlled explosion. We back up, we count down, and we find out if the math was right. 28 seconds. Today the countdown stopped there. Tomorrow, April 28, 2026, the window opens again. The pad will flood, the engines will arm, the clock will run, and the question that has never fully gone away in the entire history of spaceflight will sit in the air over Kennedy Space Center like it always does. Is today the day it goes wrong? The engineers don't say that out loud. The commentators don't say it. The crowd doesn't say it. But everyone standing on that beach 3 miles from the pad, everyone watching the live stream at 3 a.m. on the other side of the planet, everyone knows that what they are watching is humanity at its most reckless and its most brilliant simultaneously. We have not beaten gravity. We have just learned to borrow from it, one launch at a time, at enormous cost, with margins thin enough to cut yourself on. And out there, past the orbit where ViaSat-3 F3 will spend the next 15 years, past the moon, past Jupiter, past the edge of the solar system where Voyager 1 drifts in silence through interstellar space, the universe does not notice. It was here before the first rocket. It will be here after the last one. We launch anyway,